the future of the available tools for all this stuff. Let's maybe avoid the Skynet situations and the total recalls of the world, right? The Wallies, but like, around the corner, year to year, like the future of this, as so far as you see it, or the value that you think is coming.
Yeah, I think AI is the greatest leap forward in technology since the internet came out. And it's going to rapidly speed up our society and every society around the world that has high speed internet access. And it's a hard one to guess, right? Because it's moving so fast. Like even in a matter of 6 months, we've gone from nobody knowing what ChatGPT was to tens of thousands of AI tools, some of which are now unicorn companies valued at over $1 billion. Jasper AI comes to mind.
Yeah.
It's going to impact some of the largest industries. It's going to impact the film industry. It's going to impact the video game industry, which I believe is now larger than the film industry.
I think so. I think I saw that recently.
Ago.
Yeah. I have a couple friends that are like super gamers, and like that's which is wild. But I guess it makes sense. It's like a movie, but it's a choose your own adventure. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, totally. So it's going to drastically change almost every industry that works on a computer. I don't think it's going to immediately impact like physical therapists or massage therapists or and construction workers. Any blue collar job I think will be fine in a lot of ways for the next few decades until robotics catches up, which is a lot further away than AI because hardware versus software.
Very different. Yeah.
It's going to force the change of a lot of individual jobs. A lot of industries will be disrupted. It could completely collapse some larger software companies that are not AI powered. For instance, like Adobe, it could, Adobe like released Firefly, which is an AI tool to help generate a lot of this stuff. But there's hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people that have been trained proficiently on all of Adobe's suite of tools over the last 15, 20 years, however long that they've been around. I think they're probably in trouble because with tools like Runway that are coming out and Dolly too, I can just write a prompt that's going to generate something that would take hours in Photoshop to create.
By the way, I'm really hoping I can find a good one for YouTube thumbnails because, like, I'm so desperate to try to.
Yeah, so I believe TubeBuddy and vidIQ are working on some AI thumbnail makers. By the way,
like I want to just go in and be like, hey, this got 2 million hits, and like 8 other people have the same thumbnail. Can I just give you the pictures and to do the same thing for me? But
yeah, I think that's coming out. Like the text in some of these image generators is not quite there. That's
no, I tried to use Midjourney to do it, and it was terrifying. Now, mind you, I gave it about a half an hour, and I'm terrible at it.
Yeah,
but it just wasn't there. But yeah.
Midjourney is incredible too. I mean, it's going to. We're going to see a huge shift in wealth. I think will be one of the biggest things to happen over the next 3 to 5 years in this space. Big companies are that have nothing to do with AI or fighting AI are going to fall or be taken over by companies that have embraced AI.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think we reach some inflection points as a civilization over time where ingenuity and where ingenuity can outpace work ethic. And there's an often pushback to that. What I find is that when you also put good work ethic with that ingenuity, giant leaps forward happen, right? Like, I mean, you mentioned the printing press. You could also say, you know, the assembly line with Henry Ford, right? You could use the dot-com boom of just the internet having access to something that other people don't do. And one of the things that I love is the democratization to opportunity, the access to being good. And I think there are so many folks whose unfair advantage was the barrier to entry. And as those barriers get eliminated, it becomes a threat to those big things. And to be fair, too, I think there are other folks that are at the the totem pole, the person that got put out of work because of the assembly line. And so it does cut both ways. But I think it also creates more opportunity for folks who just learn the next thing. Like if you're an oil rig worker, maybe you can learn how to repair a wind turbine. Like that's not the world's best analogy, and just for what it's worth. Yeah. You know, I think there are these pivots that can be made, and some folks won't be able to do it and some folks will. And I think that's the unfair advantage that some folks will have. But I think there's also something natural about younger folks tend to be better at what is disruptive than older folks do. And there's some you know, Darwinian value to that makes me feel okay a little bit about it, that the haves eventually get pushed out by the new because of that opportunity. So with that being said, just like one of the things that I wanted to ask you, just kind of wrap this stuff up, is just if somebody's watching and they're just like, okay, I get this stuff. You talked about a lot of tools. There's a lot of things that can go into. What would you advise somebody when they're trying to map out like sort of the starter set or the perfect AI systems for their business? Like, what would that punch list be of like, if you were to come to me if I were to book your time as a consultant to help me set up my AI, what would that punch list be that I might get after a half an hour, or how would I go about finding or putting one together? I'm just curious how to create the perfect AI system for the business, or at least perfect for now, because obviously 10,000 tools later, next week, it might change a little bit.
Yeah, it's a hard one to answer because everybody's going to have different needs and use cases particular to themselves and their business, right? I think the best starting point for everybody right now is ChatGPT, just because of how accessible it is and how easy it is to immediately jump in and just ask it questions. You know, just start playing around with it and jumping in. And again, it's hard to define a list of specific tools because there's so many use cases for so many businesses. But just circling back to the beginning of this is outline, you know, the top 5 to 10 aspects in your business or in your job or in your life that are done online that you think could possibly be done by an AI. Come up with that list and then start looking for tools that do that thing. There are some great websites that list a lot of these tools by industry. Futuretools.io is a wonderful one that comes to mind. I think there's a couple thousand AI tools listed on that site by use case, by industry, and then it gives you a full detailed breakdown of what that tool does and the costs of it and everything. Start searching through that index of websites and just come up with a list of a few that you think would really help save you a lot of time, and start testing them and experimenting with them and see if it does actually save your time.
I love that answer because it's not a set in stone, but I think the second point you made of outline the 5 or 10 parts that you think might be able to be done.
Yep.
And what I love about that most is you might find that the majority of those things can or can't be done. But once you get into the world a little bit and you start to go around the crevices and the nuances, you're going to find other things. And I think if we pair that with something else you talked about with buying back your time, like, you know, outsourcing the suck, I feel like that is probably the best way of going about it. And you're making me think of it like this. Like one thing that if I were to kind of pay some advice that I give to folks and maybe put it into this realm is, if you were to time block your week, spend 1 week literally writing down what you do. How much of it is something that doesn't take critical thinking? I would suggest to somebody, based on what you're saying, in my opinion, if there's any amount of that time that is not critical thinking, that takes over half an hour a week, there's probably a tool that costs you less than $1 a day that'll do that job as good or better than you. And I don't know, that's sort of the way that I'm taking that 5 to 10 parts a day online.
Yeah, no, well said.
All right, well, cool. I'm just trying to like figure this out, because like I should probably do this myself. Like, you know, like I want to learn some stuff. So, like, if I were to
that's the thing. Like, I mean, we're so early in these tools, right? Like, we're all just figuring it out. We're all learning. You know, that's why conversations like this are so great and thought provoking to have.
Yeah, I totally agree. And in my experience, I've seen things where people are like, oh, maybe I'm too late, or other stuff like that. For instance, like a lot of folks know me for Facebook ads, right? And I would tell people like the best time to start was 10 years ago. The second best time is today.
Yeah.
And like I got started in that world when nobody, like I had 6 months experience doing it, and I got a supervisor role in an international ad agency, like conglomerate for West Coast operations, because I was the most experienced person at the job, because I've been doing it for 6 months. And in retrospect, I remember one time I went to my boss and asked for help with something. She pulled out her headphone and told me to check my job description, put her headphone back in. And that was so triggering. It has also been a point of motivation. But years later, what I realized was they didn't have an answer.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're so much at the same place here, in that I legitimately think that the only limitation you're going to see right now is in your ability to almost imagineer your way to the next problems that need to be solved.
Yeah.
And I think what I've gotten out of this conversation, and I hope other people have too, well, at least it's valuable to me, you know, we'll go from there, is that we don't need to solve everything. Find the one thing that works for you and get good enough at it that you realize there's another problem that you need to be solving. And my best advice to that stuff is, what I've found is, tackle the biggest problem first.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can tackle the biggest problem first, a lot of the other problems kind of get wiped out anyway. And with that being said, I think one of the biggest problems people have is their social media planning and everything else. So let me end this with just, do you mind just giving a little bit, maybe a recap or review, but just on the tool that you're using, that you've built? Because I think it's so cool, and I want to chat with you about it after this as well, about, you know, doing something with you. I think it's just, what it is that you're doing is so necessary, and I like the way that you're approaching the problem solving, because I feel like, at least the way I see it, this was designed for somebody that knows that they need it and kind of doesn't want to do it, and you made it easy enough for them. So that being said, let me cue that. Let me be that the T for you to tell us more about you know, the AI that you're really working on right now.
Yeah, I just got to say real quick, that was a beautiful segue there. Just a subtlety from what you were talking about into the lead up.
I do have a decade in radio. Every now and again, it comes into play.
That's a great segue. Yeah, so that's exactly it. I mean, to be frank, social media and video marketing has literally changed my life in every way, every positive way possible. Just complete change the trajectory of my life. And so I am sort of on a mission to just make it as simple, as cheap as possible, so that anybody that will listen will have the opportunity to change their lives as well if they just take action. So some of the problems that I addressed earlier that we built this tool for are, business owners know they need to market themselves. They need to market their business, particularly leaning into video marketing, but they don't know what topics to create. They don't know what to say in the videos. They need help staying consistent and accountable. They don't like being on camera. and many businesses don't have the budget to hire an expensive agency or an internal staff. And so what Syllabi does is it shows you the top questions that your customers are searching for online, particular to your industry, with data to back those questions up. It then takes those questions and generates viral video scripts for you for short form vertical video or for longer form YouTube videos. It helps you stay consistent with a content calendar and consistency tracker that you can mark as complete, so you know that you posted that video that day. We just rolled out AI video creation, so you don't need to be on camera anymore. You can choose an AI avatar that we're calling digital twins that looks and sounds like a real human reading that script. The next piece of the puzzle that we're actively working on right now is direct social media scheduling from the app to your social media profiles, as well as a video editor in the app that we're working on. And so the SOPs we've worked into this tool and a process flow. It's not just a suite of tools. It's a system that's built on a repeatable process. Find what your customers are searching for, generate a viral video script around it, create the actual video, post the actual video. That's what Syllabi does.
I think that's amazing. Like, I just love that. And I love, what I think I love most about it is I think a lot of tools are built by folks who are engineers, which is great. Problem is most people don't think like engineers.
Mm-hmm.
I think what's awesome is it's the entire process, soup to nuts. And what I imagine is it's just going to stack more and more and more on, well, what's the next thing that needs to get done? And what's the next thing, right? So it's great. Here's the plan. Awesome. Oh, you don't want to be on camera. Okay, we've solved for that. Okay, now it's all done, but you don't have the time to post it out. So there's going to be this distribution angle of it. And I think that just makes so much sense. And I think what I like to think, what I like to say about that is it makes the necessary easy in a way that eliminates the excuse to not do it.
Yes, 100%. And I'm trying to eliminate every excuse to not just get started with video marketing.
Yeah, because I mean, it works. You know, it's funny, like going back to this thing with my dad talking about, you know, function point counting, which is basically understanding the efficacy of software. And he said, all right, well, I got 200 views on this. I'm like, okay, well, only the 200 people that know exactly what they're looking for is finding this. But if you want more people to find it, and I told him, like, look, you have this amazing use case. There's a bunch of people building SaaS companies that have no idea if their code is any good. The only way people are going to know that is probably through either professional organizations, where in his case, everybody's over the age of 50, or you make video content because attention is the currency of the age. And video is, you know, taking the place of written text in a lot of places for discovery. I mean, there's a reason why TikTok is a really great search engine.
Yeah,
you know, exactly. My parents were, it's funny, my wife was giving me, my parents and I were barbecuing, and my wife was sitting there, and I had a question about, like, I didn't know about barbecuing corn, right? I didn't know the particulars. And so she Googled it, and I went on to TikTok. And by the time she got a Google response, I already was on my second video of like what the answer was, and I was done.
Yeah.
Right. And I just think that that's the idea, that you can provide the ability for somebody to be that solution for somebody else in a way that is so low friction and easy to access is amazing. And I love it. So I think that that's a great way to wrap this up. I think we put wrapping up in a bow. We're talking about AI, and now we just figured out a way to use AI to make your business work in a way where you don't even have to think about it. And I think that's the sexiest version of AI, is that you don't even know what's happening. Right? You don't even realize it's there. I mean, spell check. You just don't even think about it anymore. Right?
True.
It's just an assumption that, oh, this is what we do. And I think that is one of the very powerful things, and why I'm a big fan of what it is that you're doing. And I'm glad that we got to chat. And with that being said, I'll leave it to you if there's anything you want to promote, or any website or an app where people can find you, all of that fun stuff. Obviously, I'll drop it in the description. You're a man of many things, and I see you in multiple places on the internet, but I'm sure other folks might just be finding you. So anything that you want to get the last word in here, let me leave it to you so that goes unabated. And before we get there, I just want to say thanks. and let people know anything you want them to. I appreciate your time, Austin. This is great. So I'll leave it to you.
Yeah, this was an awesome conversation, brother. I appreciate it, and I appreciate the time, and I hope everybody found this valuable. Yeah, go check out the tool, syllabi.io. That's syllaby.io. If you want to connect with me on social, you can find me at SocialTPro, whatever your favorite platform is.
There you go. All right, man. Well, I'll let you get out of here. Thank you so much. I'm going to use some AI today. That's what I'm going to next. I promise. I'm legitimately using ChatGPT right after this phone call. So it's a beautiful thing.
Let's go. Way to take action.
I'll see you, buddy. Bye.
Thanks, brother.